Lieutenant Sarah Chen tried not to flinch as laughter echoed through the mess hall of the diplomatic station. It wasn't the first time she'd been mocked, and it probably wouldn't be the last. Empty world assignment. Commander Vexgar slapped the table with his scaled hand, his reptilian face contorted in amusement. A human babysitter for the galaxy's most useless royal. I hear she hasn't spoken in 3 years, another officer chimed in. Just sits in that palace on her dead planet, staring at nothing. What a waste of Chen's talents, someone else added with false sympathy. 6 months playing nursemaid to a broken princess while the rest of us do real work. Sarah kept her expression neutral, her military training kicking in. She'd learned long ago not to react to the mockery that came with being one of the few humans in the galactic diplomatic corps. But this assignment stung more than usual. Princess Lyra of Zinth VII, the Empty World Princess, last survivor of a planetary genocide that had wiped out 97% of her species in a single day. The girl who'd watched her entire world burn from orbit while on a diplomatic mission, who'd returned to find nothing but ash and silence. And now Sarah was being sent to? What? Keep her company. Make sure she didn't do anything rash. The orders had been vague, but the message was clear. This was a dead-end assignment for a career going nowhere. Don't take it personally, Chen, Vexgar said, his laughter subsiding. Someone has to do it, better you than someone with actual prospects. Sarah stood, gathering her tray. If you'll excuse me, I have a transport to catch. More laughter followed her out of the mess hall. Zinth VII was beautiful in the way ruins often are, haunting, melancholic, frozen in the moment of its destruction. The planet's cities stood empty, their architecture a testament to a civilization that no longer existed. Nature was slowly reclaiming what had been taken, vines creeping up buildings, flowers blooming in abandoned streets. The royal palace sat on a hill overlooking what had once been the capital. It was smaller than Sarah expected, elegant rather than ostentatious. A single figure stood at the main entrance, an elderly Zinthian with silver hair and tired amber eyes. Lieutenant Chen, he said in accented standard. I am Keeper Doran. I maintain the palace and look after the princess. Thank you for coming. I'm here to serve however I'm needed, Sarah replied formally. Doran's expression softened with something like pity. Then you are kinder than most. Come, I will show you to your quarters, and then you may meet her. Sarah's room was modest but comfortable. Through the window, she could see the sprawling city below, empty and silent. It was eerie how intact everything looked. The genocide had been biological, an engineered plague that killed with ruthless efficiency. The buildings remained, only the people were gone. The princess spends most of her time in the garden, Doran explained as he led Sarah through the palace corridors. She does not speak, has not since she returned 3 years ago. She eats when reminded, sleeps when exhausted, but otherwise. He trailed off. You will see. The garden was a masterpiece of Zinthian horticulture. Flowers in colors Sarah had never seen bloomed in careful arrangements. Water features trickled peacefully, and in the center, sitting on a stone bench, was Princess Lyra. She was beautiful in an ethereal, broken way. Her orange skin seemed to glow in the afternoon light, and her long blonde hair cascaded down her back in loose waves. She wore a simple white dress, and her amber eyes stared at nothing, unfocused and empty. Your Highness, Doran said gently. This is Lieutenant Sarah Chen. She has been sent to be your companion. No response, not even a flicker of acknowledgement. Sarah felt her heart clench. This wasn't a princess. This was a ghost wearing a princess's skin. "I'll leave you two to become acquainted," Doran said softly, retreating. Sarah stood there for a long moment, unsure what to do. Then she sat down on the bench, careful to leave space between them. "Hi," she said quietly. "I'm Sarah. I'm not really sure what I'm supposed to do here." The orders were pretty vague. "But I'm a good listener if you ever want to talk, and if you don't, that's okay too." Silence. The princess's eyes didn't even shift in her direction. Sarah tried again. "I lost someone once, my little sister. She was killed in a transport accident when she was 16. I was off-planet, training for the Corps. I didn't get to say goodbye." She picked at a thread on her uniform. "For a long time, I thought if I just worked hard enough, accomplished enough, it would fill the hole she left. But it never did. Some losses are just too big. Still nothing." But Sarah could have sworn she saw Lyra's fingers twitch slightly. "Anyway," Sarah continued, "I'm here for 6 months, so even if you don't want to talk, at least you'll have company. Everyone needs company, even if they don't think they do." She stood to leave, but as she did, she noticed a flower lying on the ground near Lyra's feet. Without thinking, Sarah picked it up and examined it, a delicate blue blossom with 6 petals. "This is beautiful," Sarah said. "What's it called?" For the first time, Lyra's eyes moved. They focused on the flower in Sarah's hand, and something flickered in their depths. Pain, recognition, memory, but she didn't speak. Sarah gently placed the flower on the bench beside Lyra. "Well, it's lovely. I'll see you tomorrow, Your Highness." As Sarah walked away, she didn't see Lyra's hand slowly reach out to touch the blue petals with trembling fingers. The days fell into a pattern. Sarah would spend her mornings handling administrative duties, checking in with command, filing reports that nobody read. In the afternoons, she would sit with Lyra in the garden. At first, she just talked. About Earth, about her family, about the strange foods different species considered delicacies. About books she'd read and planets she'd visited. Sometimes she'd read aloud from the palace library, old Xinthian poetry and human classics alike. Lyra never responded, but slowly Sarah noticed small changes. The princess's eyes would follow her when she moved. Her head would tilt slightly when Sarah mentioned something interesting. Once, when Sarah read a particularly sad passage from a Xinthian epic, a single tear rolled down Lyra's cheek. Sarah also began learning about Xinthian culture from Doran. About their traditions, their history, their lost art and music. She learned that the blue flowers Lyra seemed drawn to were called sharnai, memory flowers, traditionally placed on graves. "The princess's mother loved them," Doran said quietly. "The queen grew them in this very garden. Lyra would help her tend them when she was a child." Sarah started tending the sharnai beds herself, learning their care from old horticultural texts. And she noticed that Lyra watched her do it, those amber eyes tracking every movement. 2 months into her assignment, Sarah made a breakthrough. She'd been reading aloud from a book of Xinthian children's stories when she came across a lullaby. On impulse, she tried to sing it, her pronunciation clumsy but earnest. "Sharai matoran velna sukai." Lyra's lips moved. Sarah stopped, her heart pounding. "Your Highness, did you—" Lyra's voice was barely a whisper, rusty from disuse. "Velna sukai torma shala." The next line of the lullaby, tears sprang to Sarah's eyes. "Yes, yes, that's right." She sang the line again, and this time Lyra joined her, her voice growing stronger with each word. When the song ended, Lyra looked directly at Sarah for the first time, really looked at her. "My mother sang that to me," Lyra said, her voice hoarse, "every night before sleep. It's beautiful." Everything beautiful is gone. The words were flat, factual. Not everything, Sarah said gently. You're still here. The garden is still here. The memories are still here. Memories are torture. Memories are proof that what we loved was real, that it mattered. Lyra's face crumpled. 97 billion people, 97 billion voices silenced in 3 days, and I wasn't here. I was safe in orbit, attending a stupid diplomatic function while my people died screaming. Sarah moved closer, taking Lyra's hand. It wasn't your fault. I know, intellectually I know, but my heart. Lyra pressed a hand to her chest. My heart doesn't care about logic. It just knows that I survived when I shouldn't have, that I'm here and they're not. Survivor's guilt. Is that what humans call it? We call it a lot of things. None of them make it hurt less. Sarah squeezed her hand. But you know what helps? Talking about it, remembering, letting yourself feel it instead of drowning in numbness. Lyra was quiet for a long moment. Then, will you stay? While I remember, I don't. I don't want to do it alone. I'm not going anywhere. After that day, Lyra began to speak regularly. Slowly at first, then in floods as 3 years of suppressed grief poured out. She told Sarah about her childhood, about her parents, about friends and teachers and moments of joy that existed only in memory now. She showed Sarah the palace, pointing out paintings and sculptures, telling the stories behind each piece. She played Xinthian music on instruments that hadn't been touched in years, her fingers remembering melodies that no one else alive would ever hear again. And Sarah listened. She held Lyra when the grief became too much, sat in comfortable silence when words weren't needed, and slowly, so slowly, watched the empty world princess come back to life. But Lyra wasn't the only one changing. Sarah found herself opening up in ways she never had before. About her sister, about the loneliness of always being the outsider, about dreams deferred and potential unfulfilled. About how she'd let other people's mockery convince her she wasn't good enough. You are more than good enough, Lyra said fiercely one evening as they watched the sunset from the palace balcony. You came here when no one else would. You saw me as a person, not a broken thing to be pitied or ignored. You gave me back my voice. You always had your voice. You just needed a reason to use it again. Lyra turned to face her, and Sarah was struck by how different she looked. The emptiness was gone from her eyes, replaced by determination and something else, something warmer. I want to do something, Lyra said. With this planet, with my life, I can't bring them back, but I can make sure they're remembered. I can turn Xinth into a memorial, a place of learning, a reminder of what hate and genocide cost. That's a beautiful idea. I'll need someone who understands both Xinthian culture and galactic politics. Someone I trust completely. Lyra's amber eyes searched Sarah's face. Would you stay? Not as an assignment, but as a choice. Help me build something meaningful from these ruins? Sarah's heart raced. 6 months ago, this had been a dead-end assignment, a punishment disguised as duty. But now, looking at Lyra, at this brilliant, broken, beautiful woman who'd found the strength to live again, Sarah knew exactly what her answer would be. Yes, I'll stay. Lyra smiled, a real smile that transformed her entire face. Good, because I don't think I can do this without you. And she hesitated. And I don't want to. She leaned forward and pressed her forehead against Sarah's, a Xinthian gesture of deep affection and trust. Sarah's breath caught. Lyra, you gave me my life back, Sarah. Let me give you something too. Purpose, partnership, a future that matters. Lyra pulled back just enough to meet Sarah's eyes. If you want it. I want it, Sarah whispered. I want all of it. 6 months after Sarah's assignment officially ended, she stood in the mess hall of the diplomatic station again. She'd returned to submit her resignation and collect her personal effects. Commander Vexgar stared at her in disbelief. "You're staying on Zinth VII permanently?" "Yes, but why? That assignment was supposed to be temporary. I know, plans change." One of the other officers leaned forward. "We heard the princess actually speaks now. That true?" "Yes, she's brilliant actually. We're turning the planet into a genocide memorial and educational center. The Galactic Council has already approved funding." Shocked silence. "I don't understand," Vexgar said. "When you left, you were a mediocre officer going nowhere. Now you're advising planetary reconstruction and memorial design. How did you—" "I found something more important than climbing the ranks," Sarah interrupted. "I found purpose, partnership, someone who sees my value even when I can't see it myself." She smiled, thinking of Lyra waiting for her back on Zinth VII, of the garden they tended together, of quiet evenings sharing stories and building something beautiful from tragedy. "You all laughed when I was assigned to serve the empty world princess. But she wasn't empty, she was waiting. And I wasn't babysitting, I was learning what it means to truly serve something greater than myself." Sarah picked up her box and headed for the door. As she left, she heard Vexgar mutter, "She came back different." Sarah smiled. Yes, she had, and she wouldn't have it any other way.